receiving an alert, Jaqueline picked up her cell phone and dismissed the message. It read, "Happy 6 months birthday." She smiled to herself as she thought back that 6 months ago, she was at a revival service in Wichita, Kansas, where she surrendered her life to Christ. It was both the most exciting and unexpected night of her life. She was in Kansas visiting her father, just trying to find herself. She had been a pre-med student at the University of Denver, but had become disenchanted with all of the courses that she had to take. So she dropped out of college in her third year, went back home, got a part-time job in a fast food restaurant. That didn't last long, so she went from one low-paying job to the next, always quitting, finding something that dissatisfied her. She and her mother fought constantly. Her mother would tell her to go back to school, finish her education so she could get a good-paying job. But school was the furthest thing from her mind, so she'd go to her room, shutting the door on her mother's pleas and the outside world. Her life was miserable and unhappy to say the least, and she just didn't know what was wrong with her. It's like something was missing, but she just didn't know what it was. One Friday night, after coming from a party at a friend's house, she and her mom had the blow-up of all blow-ups. Of course, it was about the same old thing. They were yelling and screaming at each other so loudly that the neighbors heard their fighting and called the police. When the police arrived, things still didn't get any better. The last words that Jaqueline said to her mother was, "I hate living here, and I hate my whole life here. I'm sick of you constantly badgering me about my life. I'm leaving and going to my father's." And with that, she packed her bags and headed to Wichita, Kansas. Her mother and father had gotten separated when she was just a little girl. She never really knew or understood why. It was just one of those things that they never really talked about. But whenever she and her mom would have a blow-up or she felt the need just to talk, she would always call her father. While in Wichita, nothing had really changed. Jaqueline thought that a change of scenery would probably be helpful in helping her to discover who she was and what she wanted out of life. She just felt alone and unfulfilled. However, she did have a friend named Casey, whom she had grown really close to in Kansas. But unlike Jaqueline, Casey seemed more rooted and down to earth. She was also deeply religious. Jaqueline used to call her a Jesus freak. Anyway, there was a revival at Casey's church one week, and she invited Jaqueline. She gave every excuse that she could think of for not wanting to go. So she finally gave in and said, well, I guess I'll go for a few minutes. It was there, in a church revival, that she found what was really missing in her life. Not a better education, not a better job, not a career, but a relationship with Jesus Christ. Her life was changed, and a new journey began. She returned home and reconciled things with her mother and even re-entered college again. She had a new mindset and direction. Everything in her life was different, with one huge exception: Jonathan. Jonathan was Jaqueline's boyfriend. They had been together for the last 3 years. He wasn't the best thing for her, but he wasn't the worst guy she'd ever known either. Their relationship could only be described as rocky at best. He never really held down a job, and he didn't seem concerned about it. All he enjoyed was smoking an occasional joint and just having a good time. She knew that the relationship was not healthy, but she was just crazy about him. He was always there for her. He stuck by her side in good times and the bad ones. Plus, she loved him and loved the way that he made her feel. The big problem was that Jonathan was not a Christian, and he had no desire to be one. Whenever she would be with him, he often pressured her to do things that made her uncomfortable. He would nag and become angry when she refused, saying, "I'm sick of this Christian stuff. Is that all you can say? Gosh, I hate the day you ever got involved with that." Sometimes she'd cry, and at other times she'd just give in. It especially troubled her after she would sin by sleeping with him. She felt filthy and unclean. Well, her heart was constantly troubled, and every time she prayed, she knew that until she truly repented and got out of that sinful relationship with Jonathan, her life with Christ would simply suffer and die. But how could she make it without him? Just the thought of leaving Jonathan was painful to consider. But that's when she heard a voice inside of her mind saying, "He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he who does not take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. He who has found his life will lose it, and he who has lost his life for my sake will find it." And that's when she felt a feeling of calm and comfort, and the same voice came back and said to her this time, "I am with you always, even until the end of the world." So she picked up the phone and called Jonathan.
You have been listening to Start Your Day, a daily devotional with Pastor Eric Lee. To see more of our resources, please visit us at dailyliving.org. Again, that's dailyliving.org. We will be glad to hear from you. God bless you and have a wonderful day.